If you have not yet, pop over to mjtodaymedia.com/survey and take our quick and easy annual listener survey. The sooner we get all the responses we need, the sooner I can stop bugging you about it. That's mjtodaymedia.com/survey. Thanks so much. This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by Natural Order Supply, a company founded back in 2015 by expert cannabis growers and hemp cultivators located right in Grand Junction, Colorado. Natural Order Supply is your one-stop shop for all the things you need to grow quality, legal, industrial hemp. Find out how they can make your day easier and your month more profitable by opening up naturalordersupply.com. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Wednesday, August 19th, 2020, and you're tuned in to episode 968 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. We start the day's news off with a chart from Marijuana Business Daily containing some early signs in terms of how legal cannabis sales have held this month following the expiration of extra unemployment benefits paid out by the federal government as a response to the coronavirus pandemic and the cratering of the U.S. job market. The conventional wisdom about economic downturns and cannabis markets has always leaned towards our industry being so-called recession-proof, in that consumers are likely to keep buying marijuana even as their financial prospects shift. The true test of that is going on right now, as there are tens of millions of Americans out of work who are receiving, in some cases, just a few $100s a month in unemployment. Marijuana Business Daily's chart looks at California, Colorado, Nevada, and Washington State and tracks their legal cannabis sales from January through August 10th. While there has been a drop in sales seen this month in all four states, the dips came after a mirroring rise just at the end of July, which may have been caused by consumers stocking up. So it's still too early to say how those sales lines will hold. This is 100% a storyline every single person listening to the show should care about and be tracking. Pop over to Marijuana Business Daily for all the rest here. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com. We jump up to Canada for story number 2 today. Matt Lamers keeps the Marijuana Business Daily chart train rolling with a look at how the amount of legal marijuana edibles held in inventory compares to the amount sold up in Canada over the last year. Canada made adult use marijuana legal nationwide in October of 2018, but did not allow for edibles or drinks for a full year after that. So last October was when edibles first hit retail shelves. As the chart shows, the amount of edibles held in inventory by licensed Canadian providers is quickly outpacing the actual amount sold. As of May of this year, more than 6 million packages of edibles were being warehoused against the 1 million or so actually sold that month. The storyline of edibles in Canada is a big one, so this is another one I'd think about reading in full. Vermont takes the day's last top spot with an update regarding the push to pass legislation allowing for legal adult use sales in the state. Regular listeners should remember that Vermont was the first state to pass adult use legalization via legislative action, but lawmakers did not build in an actual sales model into their program. That's something that current House Speaker Mitzi Johnson has pledged to change, with a special session being held in Vermont this month and next. The new angle on this storyline is a meeting being held today in Vermont by a bicameral committee of lawmakers to discuss 2 disparate cannabis sales program bills that have been passed by the House and Senate. The committee was first seated in March, but this is the first time they are actually meeting, so it's a good step towards a Vermont cannabis sales program. Those are the top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Natural Order Supply, a company founded back in 2015 by expert cannabis growers and hemp cultivators located right in Grand Junction, Colorado. Natural Order Supply is there for you to make cultivation convenient. It's hard enough being a professional hemp cultivator. Why make things even more complex by dealing with 1,000 different suppliers and vendors when you can swing over to Natural Order Supply and get everything you need in one fell swoop. Swoop down on easier days and more profitable months by opening up naturalordersupply.com and check out all the products and services they can help you with. I don't know about you, but I kind of like it when my days are easier and my months more profitable. If you do too and you grow industrial hemp, then you need to open up naturalordersupply.com. Big thanks to everyone at Natural Order Supply for helping make today's news happen. All right, time for the Blitz. The cannabis e-commerce developer Dutchie just announced that it has raised $35 million in Series B funding, with $53 million raised by the company in all to date. The round saw participation by industry investors Casa Verde Capital and Thrive Capital, as well as former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz. Thomas Mitchell at the Denver Westword picked up on news that the proposed plans submitted by the state of Colorado to the U.S. Department of Agriculture for how it will regulate legal industrial hemp have been sent back by the USDA to Colorado for revisions. The plan was first submitted in June and is required by states, territories, and tribes wishing to install industrial hemp programs. So far, more than 50 such plans have been approved by the USDA. As Thomas is reporting, there's a little bit of confusion over why Colorado's plans were not approved, with the state spokesperson saying they were quote-unquote negotiating over terms. So this one could turn even more interesting. Marijuana media and listing site Leafly just announced that its CEO Tim Leslie is stepping down from his position after a year and a half on the job and is being replaced by the company's general counsel, Yoko Miyashita. Oregon Representative Earl Blumenauer was recently interviewed on the YouTube show Under the Canopy, which is an in-house production by Canadian giant Canopy Growth, and was asked about the marijuana policy plan being pushed by the Joe Biden campaign. Representative Blumenauer said that Biden's plan was, quote, essentially meaningless, unquote, falling far short of what the public sentiment is on legalization. The good news is that Representative Blumenauer thinks Joe Biden is evolving his position on cannabis, though maybe not quite as fast as he'd like. A good one to open up to watch in full. 20 minutes of interesting insight. Psychedelic activists in California just published a draft copy of guidelines and principles for the safe use of entheogenic substances like mushrooms in a therapeutic setting. There's a push going on in Oakland right now to pass local legislation allowing for therapeutic psychedelics, so this is part of that overall campaign. The guidelines outline how patients should educate themselves ahead of a session, how those sessions should be prepared for, and stresses the importance of the post-experience work of integrating lessons learned. Open this one up today. Tons of potential. A bipartisan group of lawmakers in Washington, D.C. just sent a letter to the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration calling for the agency to finish up developing rules for how more cannabis can be legally grown for research purposes, something it's famously dragged its feet on for years. The 11 lawmakers pointed out that the lag is not only making it much harder to carry out proper research on the effects of cannabis, but that it's also killing potential research-related jobs. You can swing over to Marijuana Moments to read the full letter yourself. St. Louis Public Radio takes us out on the day with a look at how the delays in Illinois' awarding of marijuana business licenses is disproportionately impacting social equity participants, some of whom are paying upwards of $5,000 a month in rent to hold space needed to win a license. Illinois had planned to award licenses in July for craft growers, transporters, and processors, but the coronavirus pandemic put a kink in that timeline. Right now, there's no definitive date set yet for when that will change. This is a huge structural flaw in licensing programs for sure, so I'd recommend giving it a read. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Natural Order Supply, and to our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in, starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.